October 7th, 2023, a day that will be remembered as one of the darkest in Israel's history. A day when Hamas, a terror organization that is not considered to be as powerful as Hezbollah or Iran, launched the deadliest attack on Israel since its founding. The darkest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. So how did this happen? How did Israel, known for its intelligence dominance, get caught off guard? How did one of the world's most advanced militaries fail to stop a terrorist invasion? Those are tough questions. And with a newly released investigation from the Israel Defense Forces, there are some very interesting details. The truth is as shocking as the attack itself. It was Friday night, October 6th, but not just any Friday night. It was Simchat Torah, a major Jewish holiday. In Israel, the night between Friday and Saturday is already the quietest time of the week. Shabbat, shops are closed, roads are mostly empty, people are home resting, nothing happens. And on top of that, it was a holiday. Hamas looked for the moment to strike, and they chose this day. But the thing is, there were signs, 5 major signs, warning signs. So I want to give you the timeline of what happened before the attack, from what I understand based on this IDF report. At 9 p.m., the Shin Bet security agency detected hundreds of SIM cards being activated inside Gaza. These SIM cards were known to be in Hamas's hands, but they were never activated in such large numbers before. This should have been a red flag. At 11:30 p.m., the IDF detected unusual Hamas movement, but dismissed it as a drill. At midnight, 12 a.m., another irregular movement was detected, but once again, it was ignored. At 2:30 a.m. to 3 a.m., more intelligence came in about Hamas preparing for something, but intelligence officers concluded that Hamas was either running a defense drill or preparing for a limited attack at Wars. At 3:10 a.m., the Chief of Staff of the IDF, Herzi Halevi, was briefed about the situation. He ordered the situation assessment at 8:30 a.m. on the morning of Shabbat, but by then, the invasion was already happening. By 4 a.m., every relevant division was informed. The IDF Intelligence Division, the Shin Bet, the Southern Command, and the Israeli Air Force. I do have to say that there is no recorded call between the heads of all these divisions, not between the commander of the Air Force, together with the head of the Shin Bet, together with the head of the IDF, but the divisions themselves were coordinated. The Shin Bet also decided, based on the intelligence that came in, to send, just in case, its operational unit called Tequila to the south to be ready. IDF soldiers near the Gaza border were instructed not to patrol the border. Again, that's based on reports that I read, fearing that Hamas might attack the patrol. So logic would say that they probably decided to rely on cameras and observers instead of foot patrol in order to avoid a potential attack on the soldiers. And by the way, all of this assessment, situation assessment, is happening as the Nova Music Festival is happening right next to the border. They all discussed the situation, they all looked at the intelligence, and they all reached the same conclusion, disastrous conclusion. There is no imminent danger. No emergency alert was sent. No aircraft were scrambled. The Gaza border remained vulnerable. In the hours leading up to the invasion, Hamas called the terrorists to come to the mosques in Gaza. And then at 6:29 a.m., Hamas launched its attack. About 5,000 terrorists invaded Israel, while on the Israeli side, there were only several hundreds soldiers who were there. For years, the Israeli military believed that Hamas did not want a war. Why? Because Hamas itself made it look like they don't want war. For example, when the Palestinian Islamic Jihad fired rockets into Israel in 2022 and 23, Hamas didn't join in. In fact, Hamas even tried to at least pretend to stop them. This created the illusion that Hamas had been successfully deterred, that they were more focused on governing Gaza than on fighting Israel. But in reality, Hamas had been planning this invasion for nearly a decade. In 2016, Hamas first conceived the idea of a massive invasion. In 2022, Hamas actually wanted to execute the plan during the Rosh Hashanah or the Jewish New Year holidays, but for reasons unknown, they delayed it. In retrospect, we know that at that time in 2022, the IDF Chief of Staff was actually spending the holiday with the soldiers in a military post right next to the Gaza Strip. Hamas did not know about that. In early 2023, Hamas was ready again to carry out the massacre and planned to do it during Passover, but then decided to wait once more. October 7, 2023, the plan was finally carried out. For years, Hamas had been drilling for this, training, gathering weapons, and according to the investigation by the Israel Defense Forces, it was one of the biggest intelligence failures in the history of Israel. The focus was on Hamas's intentions, not the capabilities. There was one person who saw it coming, a low-ranking IDF intelligence non-commissioned officer known as V from Unit 8200, the elite intelligence unit of Israel. She had spent months analyzing Hamas's military drills. She wrote a classified document titled Walls of Jericho, in which she accurately predicted Hamas's invasion plan. Her report detailed a coordinated ground invasion, mass murder of civilians in Israeli towns, Hamas's goal to capture IDF bases and take hostages, simultaneous rocket barrages to overwhelm the Iron Dome. She wasn't just speculating. She had seen Hamas practicing it. But when she submitted the report to her superior, Lieutenant Colonel A, he dismissed it completely. This was back in July 2023, months before October 7th. He called it a fantasy. He never passed it up in the chain of commands. In September 2023, there was a discussion to analyze the intelligence, but again, they didn't see anything urgent. So, one of the most shocking aspects of October 7 was the absence of the Israeli Air Force in the critical first hours. Why? Because they weren't prepared for a ground invasion based on this report released. Before the war, the Air Force's main focus was attacking Hamas commanders in Gaza, not stopping a mass invasion of Israel. On October 7th, the Israeli Air Force carried out a classified operation called Swords of Damocles, targeting Hamas leaders inside Gaza, not defending the border. The first strike from a fighter jet was at 7:55 a.m., according to the report. When the invasion began, the Air Force had only 2 drones monitoring Gaza, according to the investigation. Again, I'm basing everything on the investigation, but of course, this is going to be the first of many. There are still investigations to be concluded, so I believe that there's also going to be more information to be released. But by the time additional drones and aircrafts were deployed, most of the massacre had already taken place. There were about 100 breaches in the border fence, kibbutzim were invaded, homes burned, and civilians kidnapped and murdered. Hamas fired on that day nearly 4,000 rockets to overwhelm Israel's aerial defenses. At around 8 a.m., hours after the invasion, Mohammed Def, who was the head of Hamas's military wing, called all Gazans to invade Israel. And we indeed saw people invading Israel as well as looting. Pilots hesitated to strike because they feared that they could hit Israeli civilians and hostages. The Israeli Air Force later admitted that air power could have been used more efficiently on October 7th. Instead of focusing on stopping the invaders, they were executing a pre-planned strike on Hamas's leadership. By the time they shifted the focus, Hamas had already slaughtered 1,200 Israelis and kidnapped 251 people. So, again, one of the big questions that people are asking, was there an inside job? No, there was no inside job, no inside betrayal. No one in the military helped Hamas. This was not a conspiracy, it was a failure of intelligence. The army simply did not believe Hamas could do this. They read the map the wrong way, believing that Hamas, one of the smallest threats to Israel in the region, if you compare them to Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis, they didn't believe that they would be able to invade and take over parts of Israel temporarily. The intelligence officers never considered this scenario possible. Hamas exploited Israel's belief that Hamas was contained. And when they finally struck, Israel was surprised. Since October 7th, the IDF has taken drastic steps. The Air Force has doubled its aircraft availability for rapid response. More troops are stationed near Gaza at all times. The IDF is retraining soldiers on how to fight a mass invasion. New leadership has been appointed in critical intelligence divisions. And also I have to mention that the IDF Chief of Staff himself has resigned. He's going to be replaced, as well as the IDF Head of Intelligence. But listen carefully, the lesson of October 7th is clear. Hamas managed to invade Israel not because they were stronger, but because they were underestimated. And in the Middle East, underestimation is the deadliest mistake of all. When people threaten with our annihilation, we should always believe them and we should always take action. Thank you very much for watching, and please share this video.